I think the latest that I heard he's doing is a Superman series. But I think he's just
Maybe.
writing it. I don't think he's drawn anymore. I think he's slowed down drawn.
Now we're all getting to that point.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Frank is obviously a very important guy. I mean, if you look at the whole Batman franchise and how much of the Batman franchise is based on Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, that was an absolutely amazing thing to do at the time. Completely out of left field, completely gutsy, completely unprecedented. But also, he's I don't know if he's in the same kind of weird category that I am, or if he's in a related weird category I am. One of the stories I always find funny was going to Paradise Comics, and Paradise Comics is a real mainstream superhero back issue CGC kind of store primarily, but it does have other stuff. So when I'd be hanging out, I just look around and see if there's anything here that I want to pick up. And it's like, oh, Frank Miller. I wonder if there's any Frank Miller stuff I have. Oh, Holy Terror. No, I think I heard about this, but I don't. I don't know anything about it except for the fact that it's called Holy Terror and obviously done by Frank Miller. Picked it out and checking it out, and Pete Dixon looks at it and says, "No refunds on those." It's like I go, I'm really looking for a refund. Is this like a common thing where people bring this back and want a refund on Holy Terror? And it's like, okay, I guess. And then reading it, I go, okay, you could probably call this Islamophobia. That, speaking as somebody who fasts in Ramadan and reads the Quran all the way through just about every 30 days. I'm not offended by this. It's like, I think Americans are entitled to be a little steamed about Islam. I'd be surprised if Americans weren't steamed about Islam.
What did he tell you what the story behind that book was?
It was a Batman thing. I
Yeah.
think somebody told me.
Yeah. Frank had proposed it as a Batman story, and DC went, we're a little uncomfortable publishing this, and he just changed the costume and the name and went, okay, I'll just do it like this.
He should have gone ahead and done it as Batman. What do you think's going to happen? Well, at the same time,
But remember, there's Frank Miller's Batman, and then there's Batman that's on underwear that they sell for kids, and Warner Brothers is going to protect the Batman that they put on the underwear they sell for kids.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
think Frank has always pushed the envelope on that. Why can't we have Batman doing this? It's only lines on paper.
and that's, I mean, there's Batman that I let my kid watch, and then there's Batman that my kid's not going to see till my kid's a lot older than she is now. I mean,
Yes, and not without a written note from her parole officer.
not quite that strict, but I mean, when I was 8 or 9, my dad gave me Batman Year One, because that was around the time the movie had come out. No, I was 10. I was around 10, because that was when the movie came out, and Batman's everywhere, and the kid loves Batman. Okay, here's a Batman story, and I read it, and I'm like, this is pretty good, but at the same time, looking back, I'm like, that's a little bit beyond where I'd want a 10-year-old to be reading Batman.
I would think so.
Well, to be fair, at the same time, he gave my brother Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum and flat out told my brother, don't let Matt read this.
Right.
And when I finally got older and I read it, I'm like, yeah, I'm 18 and this book's creeping me out.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think I'll ever be old enough to reread Killing Joke.
That's, yeah, now that I think about it, that's the other Batman story that, my kids want to read Batman. No, put Killing Joke back. You're not old enough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's stuff in that book you're never going to get out of your head once you read it. So my recommendation would be, if you could do an edited version where you go, okay, let's take all the money shots out of here, and here's Brian Boland's artwork in black and white. I'm tight with that, but man, oh man, actually reading that again, I think we all of us went a little overboard in the 1980s just because they let us.
Well, that's...
I want to get back to David Johnson just a
Sure.
bit, though. You got an 18-page letter from him. I think David Birdsong got an 18-page letter from him. I got an 18-page fax from him, which I just happened to be upstairs checking to see if Benjamin Hobbs' new strips had come in. At the exact point that it started coming in, and looked at the screen, and it has, 18 pages on the way. It's like, okay, well, at least I'm able to pull them off one at a time and keep them in order. And fax back to David saying, fax machine is really just for business stuff, so please don't do this. You can send me anything that you want in the mail, and if you start sending as much stuff as you used to, now I've got correspondence boxes like Jim Binkowski, who to me is the Jim Binkowski, whose name I always knew from the covers that he did on a Comics Buyer's Guide, who started writing to me a while ago and sending me his comic books, sending me newspaper articles and stuff. So I've got 2 boxes of Jim Binkowski stuff, and he's a Seventh-day Adventist. So it was definitely like I think it was about 3 or 4 months of a real crash course in everything having to do with Seventh-day Adventist beliefs. And that most of the guys at Pitcairn Island, Mutiny on the Bounty, were Seventh-day Adventists. I didn't know that and hadn't remembered that from the book. But I'm very pleased to have that in the Cerebus archive. Like, I responded to a certain amount of what he said, but I'm not really turning 63 in a couple of weeks. I'm not really in the market for other people's theology and discussing other people's theology, but I am interested in having anybody's viewpoint on Cerebus and my theology and their own theology as part of the Cerebus archive. So that's really how I've left it with David Johnson. You can send me stuff. If I have time to read all of it, I'll read all of it or I'll skim it. But I will definitely have a David Johnson correspondence box in the Cerebus archive, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, or 4 of them, or however many it works out to. David Birdsong. David, you're just working on Cerebus in Hell with a question mark with Dave Sim. You're not Dave Sim. You don't have to respond to someone on these things, because we got what feels like a 20-page letter and a trade paperback book of some guy from David Johnson. David Birdsong, care of Dave Sim, Aardvark, Anaheim. I'm happy to forward it to David Birdsong, but I don't want David Birdsong thinking because Dave Sim is forwarding Dave Johnson's things to David Birdsong that this is Dave Sim saying, here you have to deal with it. No, it's illegal for me to open it. It's not addressed to me. But if you don't want to get stuff from David Johnson, you tell me me, and I'll tell David Johnson, please don't send more stuff to David Birdsong. I gave up commenting on the Genesis question, the book, because I was, as much time as I spent working on it, no, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to be, here's somebody who thinks God and YHWH are the same being, which most monotheists do. Certainly most Jews and or all Christians and all Jews. I don't. So that's kind of a break thing. That's a deal breaker as far as I'm concerned. It's like I'm interested in listening to what you have to say, but fundamentally, I'm not in the market for finding a different viewpoint on God and the YHWH. I think my theory suits and matches the text of the Torah, the Gospels, and the Quran in a way that your philosophy doesn't. You're more than welcome to believe what you want to believe, and I'm always happy to discuss the finer points of it and to hear what people have to say about it. But I really don't have time to be doing, 15-page letters going, well, no, here's where I disagree with you. And you had the same reaction that I did and the same reaction that David Birdsong did. A lot of what David was writing was just factually inaccurate. I didn't say that. Matt Dowd didn't say that. This wasn't what happened in the book. So there's only so many hours in the day. You can't. Somebody who's making those kinds of anybody who knows what you're talking about knows that that's inaccurate information. There's not enough hours in the day to spend correcting that. You said that in your facts to me, that you started responding to him and just went, I don't know where to start with.
Well, I was going through his, because it's an email, so I was just going through the email and, okay, this is where I disagree, not because I disagree, but because you're saying something that I can prove to you is wrong. Your interpretation is wrong. And I just started going through, because one of his points for the viewers at home is that Cerebus signed Cerebus' son's petition, and well, no, it wasn't Sheshep's petition. It was the Upperfeld Fufus. That slightly different interpretation depending on whose petition it is, and I was going through thing by thing, and after 2 hours, it was like, it's actually Easter morning. We're going out to Easter brunch. It's time to get dressed up, put on my tie and go. So I'll come back to this later. When we got home, I'm like, I just don't feel like dealing with this because it's an 18-page letter, and I was flipping through it when I was sending it to you, just skimming it. And I'm like, he talks about the strange death of Alec Robinson, and I'm like, that's not the book you're working on. I don't even think that's a real person. And it's, that's, I want to respond because I feel I owe him a response of, hey, you took the time to send this in, but we're coming from two very different worlds here where I'm not sure what you're talking about because you're twisting reality to fit what you want to say, but I don't think that's reality.
Maybe what you could do, if you were inclined to do it, I've got it in the correspondence file for that month. So it's in the April box that is just getting prepared. If you just said, okay, most of what you're writing here is factually inaccurate, and just took a yellow highlighter pen, and anytime you read something where you went, okay, that's just wrong, instead of taking the time that it's going to take, to actually write back and address and cut and paste and everything and retype what it is that he said, just say, okay, here's yellow highlighted. Anything that I put in yellow highlight is factually wrong to the extent that it's just it's not even worth talking about. And then see, okay, how much of the letter is left over that isn't in that category.